other side of the Capitol. But just to lay out at the beginning why we're here. Today, the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigation is issuing a report. This report ought to shock America's conscience. Americans should be shocked to read these stories, 22 American citizens treated in a way we would not tolerate anyone in this great nation, our fellow citizens, being abused and mistreated. Americans should have a hard time recognizing our great nation in these shocking, stomach-turning stories of fellow Americans assaulted brutally by agents of the United States government. Our report documents 22 stories, and yours are among them, across 10 different states, all across the United States, containing previously unreported details and new accounts. But we know that these 22 stories are among hundreds, literally among hundreds, that your voices and faces will reflect for us today. And they are fearful about coming forward because of intimidation and threats and potential retaliation. You have braved those threats and intimidation, and we are immensely grateful to you today. Our report outlines, and we'll hear it from 5 witnesses today, stories that would be totally abhorrent to most Americans. And they follow a through line. There's a script. Americans living normal lives, citizens going about their business, taking kids to school or going to work. Immigration agents stop them, sometimes smashing into their cars. Unprompted seizures at the airport, blockades at their streets, even intruding in their homes. Citizens are then subjected to brutal physical violence. Children are treated with reckless disregard for their safety and well-being. Agents, frequently masked and unidentifiable, turn violent without provocation, crashing their government vehicles into citizens' cars and dragging them from those cars, slamming them to the ground and violently assaulting them. This kind of abuse is a pattern. This excessive force has resulted in injuries to some of you and many others that have lasting impact on them. We're talking about bleeding wounds, broken ribs, concussions, other kinds of real physical, serious injury. And it doesn't matter if you have documentation, a passport, a real ID. Most strikingly to me, aside from the physical violence, is the disregard and denial of proof of citizenship by these masked agents who have detained you and hundreds of others. No due process. Total disregard for this document, which we hold sacred in the United States Congress, and the American people hold sacred, the Constitution of the United States. No rights and no due process. Arrest first and investigate later. And then, as if they are secret police, agents kidnap citizens and disappear them, throwing them into vans to be transported elsewhere without telling people where, without giving them access to telephones so they can contact their families, taking away their phones, no access to lawyers, and no knowledge about how many days or hours they will be held. In fact, contrary to Justice Kavanaugh in the decision in which he concurred, Noam versus Vasquez Pombero, not a quick stop. Detention for days, literally, of just 22 people we spoke to for our report. 7 citizens were held for more than 24 hours, and 2 others were held for more than 12 hours, and a number of you for days, literally, 2 days, 3 days. And by the way, the Department of Homeland Security will not tell us how many U.S. citizens have been detained. Nobody knows, apparently. They've been held without access to necessary medical care, water, even bathrooms. They've been subject to indignities and disrespect. And when they are finally released, no answers. Sometimes charges against them that are then dismissed because they have no basis in fact or law. And the effects are long-lasting. Post-traumatic stress, kidney infections, trips to the hospital, fear of falling asleep, only to have nightmares about being dragged out of their homes again. In many instances, as you have told me, federal immigration agents make up charges of assault to justify their abuses of you. And thankfully, video evidence absolutely refutes those charges. They have invented them, made them up out of whole cloth. I call on every American to ask yourselves what it means to be an American to you and to uphold basic American values, and watch these videos, each of your arrests and many others, and ask whether that's the America that you know, the America that reflects your values and American rights. There's a lot more to say here, but I want to keep my comments brief because the focus today really should be on your faces and voices. We want you to tell your stories, which are so powerful, and that you have bravely come before us to tell us. We're here seeking accountability. We probably need to change laws to really make the federal government accountable to people like yourselves whose rights have been violated. I know that we're going to be working on it here in the United States Senate, and you will be providing a powerful impetus to us in that work. And again, my thanks to you and to all of our colleagues from the House who are going to be joining us, most especially Representative Garcia, and I turn to him now.
Well, thank you, Senator. I just want to begin, just thank you for hosting us and for your leadership. The work of oversight and ensuring that our agencies and the administration is working to protect all people in this country, in particular U.S. citizens, is so important. And we want to thank the Senate for its incredible partnership, not just today, but every day. So thank you, sir. I want to just begin by thanking all of you, our witnesses that are here today, United States citizens of this country, people that have given back in so many ways through your work, through your labor, your community activism, your service to our country in the military. You've all done so much, and we just want to thank you for your courage to be here. Our witnesses today have been, in some cases, abused, smeared, and mistreated by our own government. The Trump administration has told blatant lies about their conduct and their interactions, which we've heard from all of you. You are all American citizens. Mr. Retes, Ms. Velez, I know I spoke to both of you in Los Angeles. I want to thank you for your testimony in that broader field hearing about broader immigration issues. But you're both here today to bring light to what is happening to United States citizens as they interact with ICE and DHS. This is all happening because of Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, and their anti-immigrant and anti-American enablers. We know this administration is spreading lies, is creating fear, and is breaking the Constitution and our rule of law every day. Our Constitution guarantees due process under the law for everyone. As members of Congress, we take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and that's why we're here today. We know when the American people hear these stories, they are also terrified. They know that what's being done by their government to other U.S. citizens, to neighbors, to members of their family, to veterans is horrific and is terrorizing communities across the country. This is also deeply personal for me. I came to the U.S. as a young kid. My family grew up without much means, but they were hardworking immigrants who gave everything they had to get back to this country who had given us so much. And I gained the great privilege of becoming a U.S. citizen in my early 20s. When I raised my hand and swore an oath to our Constitution and our country, that meant something to me. And I've always said that immigrants who are given the great privilege of becoming citizens are also some of the most patriotic people in this country. I know you all love your country. I love our country. And this is not the America that we believe in or that we fought so hard for. Every person in this country who's a U.S. citizen has rights. All of you have rights. In many cases, they've been seriously violated by officials and masked agents. Whether it's Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Charlotte, New Orleans, Minneapolis, and across the country, Donald Trump has used ICE, CBP, and federal agents to bring fear, violence, and chaos. They have arrested American citizens. They have devastated businesses and families. They have held innocent people in inhumane conditions and deported innocent people without due process. And they have lied and continue to lie over and over again. I want to thank again the senators that are joining us today for your incredible leadership. To our members of the House who will be coming in throughout this hearing today, I also want to thank them for participating. And I want also the Senate leadership to know that we're here as partners in this incredibly important, not just hearing, but this effort to bring justice for all of you and for all the other U.S. citizens that are being unlawfully detained. I want to remind the President that the Constitution protects everyone, regardless of the color of your skin, your background, the language you speak, what your parents look like, where they're from. It protects everyone. Now, Oversight Democrats recently launched an Oversight Immigration Enforcement Dashboard, which just went live a few weeks ago, and it's the first of its kind. And we partnered with numerous groups across the country so that we can archive every single possible action by ICE that might be either a misuse of laws, an attack on the Constitution, and certainly if it's mistreatment by federal agents. This is now a federal dashboard, and I want to thank the members of the Oversight Committee for being so supportive of this project. And finally, I just want to say that during today, we want to hear from you and your stories, the terror that you all felt, how much you believe in this country, and what we should do to respond. So I want to thank each of you for being here. I want to thank Senator Blumenthal and his whole team for hosting us today here in the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Representative Garcia. I'm going to introduce the witnesses now, and I'm going to ask Senator Durbin to introduce Diane Figueroa after I introduce George Redis, and then Senator Welch, thank you for being here. We'll introduce Wilmer Chavarria, and then I'll introduce the other witnesses. So first, thank you, George, for being here. It is very, very meaningful because you're not only a United States citizen, you're a veteran of the United States Army, having fought in Iraq, and as a father of 2 children, you will testify today about how you were assaulted and detained while trying to go to work in July, and you were held for 3 days under conditions that I hope you will tell us. Senator Durbin, if you would introduce Diane Figueroa.
Thank you very much, Senator, and I thank all my colleagues from the House and the Senate for gathering for this important meeting. This is my first time to formally meet Diane Figueroa, but I feel like I know you. I've seen you on television so much, and sadly for the reasons that I'll describe. Ms. Figueroa experienced one of the most egregious examples of federal immigration agents' unacceptable aggression and use of excessive force in Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, and we all saw it on video, every single second of it. No question about what happened to you. You're an American citizen. the mother of a 5-year-old boy. You took him to school in the morning, grabbing a cup of coffee on the way to work. It sounds like the American dream, but it turned into a nightmare. You work in a law firm in Chicago, and you hope someday to go to law school yourself. Is that not correct? You'll be a great lawyer. But you didn't make it to work that morning. In a video that made national news, and I reported on the floor of the Senate, Diane faced masked immigration enforcement agents. You can see them driving their car into her car, smashing into her car, and then pointing their firearms at her, pulling her out of the car and violently arresting her. When she was finally released, her mother had to rush her to a nearby hospital. She was injured and bleeding from the encounter. Recently had gone through kidney surgery just a few weeks before this happened. Thank you for being here and shining a spotlight on this terrible day in your life. What should have been a lawful and targeted enforcement actions has become sweeping enforcement agency, sweeping up any person who happens to look Hispanic. I watched the videotape of your violent arrest, and I can't imagine what you experienced. Though you begged for information, the agents arrested you and refused to identify themselves and barred you from contacting your family or lawyer. I understand that your family was frantically searching, trying to find you after they heard about what happened. The only way they found you is they tracked your cell phone to an ICE facility. Was that Broadview? Broadview facility, which is notorious now. Not because law enforcement agents contacted your family or gave any help to locate you. No family should ever have to experience that kind of terror and experience. Thanks for coming forward to tell your story. I'm honored to be representing you in the Senate.
Thanks, Senator Durbin. Senator Wells.
Thank you very much. And I'm delighted to represent the school superintendent from Winooski, Vermont, has students in that school that show up that have never spoken a word of English. And I think there's like 25 different languages spoken there. So I'm just going to suggest that this man has a harder job than any of us, and he really does it well.
In my view, that's true of all teachers.
Well, I'm with you on that, and he's pretty special, and he's had a long career in education. And Mr. Garcia, this is amazing, because your story is inspiring, but I think we've got one to match it. Mr. Chavarria was born in a refugee camp in Honduras, raised in Nicaragua. He came to the U.S. on a student visa, became a legal permanent resident, and eventually a U.S. citizen in 2018 after his marriage to his husband, who is here with us today. So pretty inspirational. And when he left the country and visited a family in Central America. On the return, was detained, separated from his husband, and pretty aggressively questioned for 5 hours. And of course, without his consent, the personal information in his devices was examined. But so many of the people here just show how wonderful new Americans are, wherever it is they come from. And this indiscriminate roundup of people because who knows why, it's all arbitrary, is what this hearing is about today. So we're very proud to have a Vermonter with us today, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, Senator Wells. Welcome to Andrea Velez. She is a U.S. citizen from California. She's a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona and works as a production coordinator for a shoe company in Los Angeles. She will testify today about how she was detained by the Department of Homeland Security on her way to work and held for 48 hours. Javier Ramirez is a United States citizen and father of 3 young children from California. Mr. Ramirez will testify today about how he was assaulted and detained by immigration agents for more than 96 hours and denied adequate medical care. And I want to also welcome Aaron Reichland-Melnick. He is a senior fellow at the American Immigration Council. In addition to his work as a senior fellow at the council, He has previously litigated cases to promote government accountability and address due process issues within the immigration system. He'll be able to address some of the questions about how government treatment of these 5 witnesses violated the law and represents a dramatic departure from DHS norms. I will apologize. I'm going to call on the witnesses to give their statements, beginning with Mr. Eres. I have to run to vote, but hopefully I'll be back before you finish your statements. We have a video that will play after you do your statements, and then the questioning will begin with Representative Garcia, to be followed 5-minute rounds by myself. We'll go to House members. They'll be called on by Representative Garcia. I'll call on colleagues from the Senate. We'll go back and forth. This is truly a partnership between the House and the Senate. It doesn't happen all that often. I might just add, by the way, because it may be a question on some of your minds, chances are very slight that we'll have any Republicans here today. And I regret that fact, really sincerely regret that we will have only Democrats in this hearing, because Republicans should be here to hold the administration accountable, just as we are doing. Accountability for defending American rights should not be partisan. It should be totally bipartisan. And we will be talking about people in red states as well as blue states. There should be no states where this kind of abuse occurs. So with that, let me turn to Mr. Redis for your testimony. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Oh my God. Thank you for having me. It means a lot. My name is George Redis. I'm here today not to reopen old wounds, but as a veteran, a father, and an ordinary person who still believes in the promise of this country and the values represented by our flag. I respect law enforcement. I respect the men and women who serve, but I also believe that accountability is not the enemy of respect. It is its foundation. On July 10th, 2025, I was confronted by ICE agents on my way to work. I want you to understand exactly what that looked like, not because I want sympathy, but because it exposes a crack in the law that must be fixed. I was driving to my job as a security guard at a licensed farm in Camarillo, California. Federal immigration agents were lined across the road leading to the farm. I identified myself as a U.S. citizen and a veteran, but that didn't matter. Agents smashed my window, sprayed tear gas and pepper spray into my car, dragged me out. I was choking on gas, unable to breathe, while officers shouted conflicting commands even after I complied. They pinned me down, one kneeling on my back and another kneeling on my neck, while my hands were already behind me. I was first taken to a Navy base where agents collected my DNA, and after that, I was taken to a detention center and held for 3 days without charges. No phone call, no lawyer, no medical care, even though my skin burned from the chemicals. I wasn't allowed to shower. On Friday morning, they placed me on suicide watch. Suicide watch is a yellow concrete room with a concrete bed and a thin mattress. Light stays on 24/7. You're stripped naked and put in a hospital gown. A guard watches you constantly. I remained in those conditions from Friday morning until the moment I was released. My family had no idea where I was. I was released without explanation and without a single charge. That entire experience violated the very principles I fought to defend. And here's the truth. It happened because of a gap in the law that allowed it. If these had been state or local officers, I could take them to court right now and demand answers. But because they were federal agents, they are shielded by a blanket of immunity. That's why I'm here. The point is not to look backward, but forward. What can we do together to ensure this never happens again? This is not about politics, it is about principle. It's about fixing a flaw that undermines the freedoms we claim to protect. I still believe in the flag, I still believe in the ideals that make this country worth fighting for. But belief alone is not enough. We need action, we need accountability, and we need laws that reflect the values we say we stand for. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I hope my experiment serves as a call to strengthen, not weaken, the trust between citizens and the institutions sworn to protect all of us.
Thank
And
you, sir.
Yeah, that's my testimony.
No, thank you for your courage. We appreciate that. Next up will be Ms. Figueroa.
Thank you for giving me the space to speak today. My name is Diane Figueroa. I am a proud first-generation Mexican-American, a criminal justice major, a single mother, and a future law student. What happened to me almost exactly 2 months ago on October 10, 2025, was not law enforcement. It was violence, blatant racial profiling, and a shocking abuse of federal authority. That morning, I kissed my son goodbye and watched him walk into school, never imagining that it would be what felt like days before I felt safe again. On my regular commute into Chicago, I approached what looked like chaos. Cars stopped in the middle of the street, people running, yelling, and recording on their phones. Moments later, my life changed forever. A silver SUV with double tinted windows suddenly swerved into my lane and struck my car. The driver's face was almost entirely concealed: hat, dark tinted glasses, and a face mask. He made no gesture, no signal. Before I could even process what was happening, his passengers, other masked men, jumped out with guns drawn and aimed directly at me. They ripped open my door. One of them screamed in my face, demanding that I get out, yet never identifying himself, never asked me for my ID, and never told me where I was being detained or why. They never read me my rights. Instead, I was violated. These tough guys violently dragged me out of my car, yanked me by my feet, and ripped the phone out of my hands. Beaten, bleeding, and barefoot, I was thrown into a red van. I begged them to tell me who they were and where they were taking me. No one answered. I was shoved into the edge of a third row seat, no seatbelt, suffocating body heat, and no air conditioning. I was wedged between two terrified Latino men who did not speak English. We were all handcuffed, unsecured, helpless, and I went into a full panic attack. While I was shaking, crying, gasping for air, and banging my own head against the window, screaming for help, hoping someone from the outside could hear me, they raised their phones and began to photograph me. Two more masked men in full black tactical gear, carrying professional cameras, had been circling me from the beginning, documenting my terror. Where those images ended up, only God knows. I was not treated like a human being, and I was certainly not treated like a US citizen, but I was preyed upon. They were proud to have captured me. I was first violated at the Broadview Immigration Detention Center, and eventually while in FBI custody in Lombard, Illinois. Everything moved quickly and without explanation. I was fingerprinted, photographed, and swabbed for DNA, and fully processed and identified, all while my physical condition was rapidly worsening. I repeatedly told them that I was recovering from 2 recent kidney surgeries. No one took it seriously until I began to pee blood. I begged for help, for a phone call, a lawyer, for water, bandages, anything to ease the pain. Instead, I was laughed at and thrown into a filthy jail cell. The toilet available for me was under direct surveillance. With no privacy, no dignity, and unbearable pain, I had no choice but to use it. When visible blood appeared, their soulless demeanor finally vanished. Not out of care, but because they didn't want me to die in their custody. While I was being kidnapped, my family and friends were desperately trying to find me, contacting the members of our inner circles, elected officials, civil rights organizations, and legal advocates. They did not know whether I was being killed, kidnapped, or trafficked. Hours later, I was finally allowed to access my phone again by the heroic paramedics. My cut, trembling hands could barely type, but I managed to send a message at 2:07 p.m. in an ambulance. Within seconds, my boyfriend replied with something that stunned me: a photo of the very Village of Lombard ambulance I was inside of. Their determination, love, and the refusal to stop searching are the only reasons I was not lost entirely, like the hundreds of people, including children, who had been reported missing from the ICE locator system since these domestic terrorizations began in our country. Or worse, killed, like my neighbor and father of two, Silvario Villegas Gonzalez of Franklin Park, Illinois. A father of two minors, my neighbor. He died in the course of an ICE operation. What happened to me that day is not an arrest. It was an assault and a kidnapping of a US citizen. I was never arrested, I was never charged, I was never given an explanation or an apology. But the damage is done and it continues. I suffer severe bruising, nerve damage, a broken tooth, and aggravated injuries to my leg and wrists. My surgically repaired kidney became swollen and inflamed. And emotionally, I developed PTSD, panic attacks, and severe anxiety. I swear I've been kidnapped in my nightmares every single night since. Weeks later, a disturbing pattern emerged, reports of nearly identical incidents. This time, a man with schizophrenia was kidnapped and later released in a completely different town by the same masked agents, using the same reckless tactics and the same red van they used to attack me in. It is important to say this clearly. The individuals who did this do not represent the honorable men and women who serve in our military, our local police departments, and our federal agencies, with integrity and accountability. Those people protect us.
Thank
Well,
you, Ms. Figueroa. If you can just wrap up in the next sentence or two on
Yes,
time.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Despite everything, I am here. I am standing and I am speaking because I refuse ICE to rewrite my story. I refuse to let fear silence me. This was not just an incident, it was a violation of my physical being, my rights, my dignity, and my humanity. And I will not rest until there's accountability, transparency, and change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we will have Mr. Severia, please.
Good afternoon, honorable members of the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives. My name is Wilmer Chavarria. I am the proud superintendent of schools of the Winooski School District in Vermont. I was born inside a refugee camp during the Nicaraguan Sandinista Contra War. I grew up homeless for a time and in extreme economic misery, often struggling to find food or shelter. I worked in the streets since I was 6 years old, and I became an advocate for working children's rights around the country, even before finishing elementary school. My memories of school are flashes of embarrassment for not having shoes or not having a notebook. But unless I had a fever so high that I would lose consciousness, my mother would not let me skip school. She had only been allowed to go to school until 5th grade, so she took it upon herself to ensure that her children made it all the way to high school, no matter what. The resilient spirit of my mother gave me an obsessive commitment to excellence and hard work, despite poverty and deprivation. I graduated as valedictorian at age 15 and won the highest academic merit achievement award in my region. I was granted a full scholarship to a national university in Managua and subsequently more full scholarships in schools in Canada and the US. After completing my bachelor's at a historic Quaker college in Richmond, Indiana, I was awarded the prestigious Thomas J. Watson Fellowship and earned graduate degrees from the University of New Mexico and Harvard. After a long journey, I finally became a US citizen in 2018. When I held my US passport for the first time, I felt an enormous sense of pride, and I was deeply inspired to give my new country the best of me, my talent, my work, and my dreams. I felt loved by my community, and I believed with all my heart that the American dream was me. My mother's high expectations had propelled me to unlikely places, and I had to make a difference in the land that welcomed me. But I have never stopped going to Nicaragua to visit my mother. I understand the requirements agencies place on travelers coming into the country, and I have always cooperated without hesitation in the 2 decades since my mother first said goodbye to me at age 16. This past summer, however, I was separated from my spouse for hours, taken into a detention area with several officers in plainclothes, and all my devices, along with their PINs and passwords, were demanded. I verbally asserted my rights as a US citizen and requested a lawyer or a phone call, all of which were denied. I was told that I have no constitutional rights at a port of entry, and that I should be grateful that they were even bothering to ask me nicely. As a superintendent, it is my duty to protect the information of our students and families contained in some of those devices, and I was not simply going to release this data to third parties without a warrant. To this, the officers responded with threats, including referring me to the FBI, a warning that they could make me lose my job if they wanted to, or destroy my reputation so as to damage my prospects for future employment. My devices were taken and searched out of view, and I was never given a reason for my detention. Several hours later, and after interrogations that questioned everything from my marriage to my work, I was finally released to find my spouse in the baggage claim area, still shaken from the verbal assaults he had suffered when asking for my whereabouts. Since this incident, I do not feel free to travel. I am fearful that a visit to my mother could mean extended detention or a fabricated plot to destroy my life like they threatened to. If the goal is to make some citizens feel like they are of a second class, with only some of the rights but not others, then they have succeeded. But I choose to believe that the pendulum will swing the other way, and that our collective disgust for these abuses will catalyze into a powerful backlash against overreach. I thank you for being here to support me and my fellow Americans as we ride out a dark time in our history. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilmer. We'll turn now to Andrea Velez.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Andrea Velez. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm an LA native. I am the proud daughter of Mexican immigrants and a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona. From my parents, I learned the values of kindness, respect, and integrity, and those lessons continue to guide me in everything I do. I bring with me an education, a strong work ethic, and a commitment to doing what is right. I am soft-spoken by nature and not one to seek conflict, but I must speak today, not just for myself, but for those who cannot share their stories. On Tuesday, June 24, my mother and sister dropped me off at my workplace in downtown LA's fashion districts. Seconds later, the street was swarmed by unmarked cars. Masked men in plain clothes began chasing and attacking people without identifying themselves as ICE. One of them ran towards me. He was large and aggressive. Terrified, I used my work bag as a shield, but he grabbed me and slammed me onto the sidewalk and accused me of interfering. I asked for his badge or a warrant. He refused. He told me I didn't need to know who he was and that I should just look at his vest. He handcuffed me without checking my ID. They ignored me as I repeated it again and again that I am a U.S. citizen. They did not care. They took my belongings and placed me in an unmarked car. I was unaware that my mother and sister had witnessed everything unfolding and felt powerless to intervene. They feared that if these men could do this to me, they could just as easily do the same to them. They called 911 for help. LAPD did not protect me that day. They aided ICE instead. As helicopters hovered and sirens closed in, I trusted LAPD would protect us. I managed to escape the unmarked car and run towards the officers, pleading for help and telling them that I didn't know who these masked men were. I begged to be taken by them rather than by masked strangers, yet the officers allowed the masked men to take me and parade me. As another U.S. citizen, Luis Hipólito, was detained that day for recording. ICE pepper sprayed him, jumped him, beat him, restrained him by the neck, and still pointed a taser gun at him. Hipólito kept asking for medical assistance, but they minimized his pain as not a big deal, despite convulsing, bleeding, and struggling to breathe. While being held at a temporary holding, Hipólito thought he was not going to make it out alive. And only after he went into shock did ICE finally decide to call an ambulance. In the chaos of ICE's disorganization, I spent most of the first day handcuffed and shackled in a van, watching people arrive distraught and take it against their will, while ambulances came and went for those attacked. Requests to use a bathroom or asking for food were met with hostility and anger. Inside, I was denied the right to call my family or speak to a lawyer. ICE refused to disclose my whereabouts to my family and my colleagues. No one could locate me. They later forced me to stand in front and center, surrounded by officers with their backs turned, staged like a mugshot, DHS likes to use to brand us as criminals, stripping us of our dignity. They want to paint us as the worst of the worst, but the truth is we are human beings with no criminal record. While detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center, I was unable to access drinking water without first purchasing a cup. I was thirsty. Thankfully, a detainee lent me theirs, and later another detainee leaving that day donated a cup and a spork, allowing me to eat dinner. Officers told me I would be held for 1 night, yet it extended to 2 without explanation, and I was issued a uniform as if my stay would be longer. I remained in custody until Thursday, and it was only at my court hearing that I first learned of the charges against me. In disbelief, I read the affidavit falsely claiming I had struck an ICE agent on the face and that I belonged to an organized group that attacks him. 2 weeks later, my case was dismissed for lack of evidence. Since that day, I no longer feel safe. Though I try to detach from my trauma, our community continues to be targeted simply because of the color of our skin. We are left vulnerable, forced to fend for ourselves, and if this is how U.S. citizens are treated, imagine the cruelty inflicted on those without. I urge you to hold ICE and every agency accountable for their vile, disgusting, and inhumane treatment of our Hispanic and immigrant communities. We need action and we need justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Velez. Mr. Ramirez.
Hello, my name is Javier Ramirez. I was born in San Bernardino, California. I'm a proud American citizen who has never known the weight of a criminal record. I also am a father of 3 beautiful children. But today I stand before you not just as a father or a citizen, but as a man who has faced a horror experience that have changed my life. On June 12, 2025, precisely 4:32, my world was turned upside down. Agents of Border Patrol stormed onto my private property at 1537 West Olympic Boulevard in Montebello, California. Armed with high-powered assault rifles, wearing masks, and their only uniform being their bulletproof vest that shield them from accountability. I have never encountered gunmen in my life. I feared feared greatly and tightly as they approached me. When they spoke to me in Spanish, asking where was I going, I replied, "Voy pa fuera," meaning I'm going outside. I didn't want to do anything to do with them. This was a terrifying situation. But when I heard a chilling voice declare, "Get him, he's Mexican," I'm in an instant thrown down to the ground. Confusing, knowing not what to do. I just feel a knee going on my face and then on behind my neck. My mind raced with disbelief. What I have done, or what have I done to receive such a treatment? I am not a criminal. I am not an illegal immigrant. I plead with them. I'm a U.S. citizen. I was born here, but my words fell with deaf ears. We are not asking for that, they coldly replied. I asked repeatedly, what was I being arrested for? Only to hear the haunting response, "We don't know. We're trying to figure it out." As a diabetic, I began to feel unwell. I desperately requesting medical assistance, but my cries were met with interference. Even in handcuffs, I was thrown again to the ground. My heart heavily with the weight of injustice. I found myself questioning, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? The nightmare continued as I was handed over to HSI, and by 8 p.m. I was read my rights. Spending 5 long days in prison cell, as a citizen of this great country, I should never have to endure such treatment. I should not have to live in fear of being targeted simply for the color of my skin or the language I speak. Today, I live with constant shadow of anxiety, fearing of this could happen again, not just to me, but to my children or my loved ones. The streets of my city, once a peaceful and safe community, have become tainted by the actions of those who should protect us. instead installing terror in our community. I share my story not just for myself, but for everyone that has been unjustly treated, for those whose voice have been silenced. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramirez. Mr. Reichlin-Melnick, we welcome your observations as well.
Ranking members Blumenthal, Garcia, and distinguished members of the committees. My name is Aaron Reichlin-Melnick, and I'm Senior Fellow at the American Immigration Council, a nonpartisan nonprofit which has long studied immigration enforcement. We envision a nation where immigrants are embraced, American communities are enriched, and justice prevails for all. There's no debate that our immigration system needs reform. The American people want a system that's marked by order, not chaos. They want a system which provides opportunities for coming into compliance for people who are otherwise law-abiding, while ensuring consistent, fair, and proportionate penalties for people who are not. But unfortunately, the Trump administration is more interested in generating a perception of order through performative cruelty than creating actual order through meaningful reforms. With over 14 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, the vast majority of whom pose no threat and make invaluable contributions to their communities, ICE has for decades focused its limited resources on those individuals it deemed public safety threats or fugitives. In recent years, over 80% of ICE arrests involved officers traveling to a local, state, or federal jail and taking custody of a person already in the hands of law enforcement. By contrast, at-large immigration enforcement arrests, where individuals are arrested at their homes, work sites, or other public locations, were significantly more rare. As a result, most Americans have no experience with large-scale immigration enforcement in their communities. But that is changing. Since taking office, this administration has supercharged the interior enforcement system, morphing it into a larger, more aggressive federal presence than ever. At its core, this shift rests on the implicit view that immigration enforcement should be the most important law enforcement priority of the federal government, leaving resources diverted away from drug smuggling, child exploitation, and even counterterrorism. Following orders from the White House to hit unreasonably high arrest targets, these at-large arrests in American communities have risen by nearly 600% since January, with the steepest increase among those who pose no public safety threat. From June through October, a shocking 62% of all people arrested by ICE at large had no criminal record whatsoever. This dramatic expansion has led to a rising number of citizens being caught up in the chaos. ProPublica found that through October, at least 40 U.S. citizens were erroneously arrested during immigration operations, and as you've already heard today, another 130 were arrested for claims of interfering with ICE. Many of those claims, of course, have been proven false in court. The expansion of arrests in American communities has come through three major shifts in policy. First, the widespread use of collateral arrests and roving patrols, where agents arrest people who were not targeted by or known to DHS. Second, the expansion of worksite raids. And third, rearrest policies targeting people appearing for court hearings and ICE check-ins. It's these first two major changes which has resulted in the rising number of U.S. citizens and permanent residents being wrongfully arrested and detained. Immigration officers are empowered to stop and question any person suspected of being a non-citizen. But of course, immigration status is not visible to the naked eye. So how can officers determine whether a person is a possible non-citizen? The obvious answer is profiling. As Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bavino said to a tall white reporter in Chicago, officers use, quote, the particular characteristics of an individual, how do they look compared to, say, you. In an increasingly diverse nation, these tactics are error-prone, and over the last year, DHS officers have aggressively and repeatedly questioned, detained, and arrested U.S. citizens and held them at times for hours or even days in situations which suggest a serious breakdown of discipline. As immigration enforcement expands, these incidents will continue, and there will be more arrests of American citizens who confront immigration officers in protest of these indiscriminate policies. When communities feel unsafe, the natural reaction is to direct blame towards the most visible cause, increased immigration enforcement and the people carrying it out. In the end, everyone, including U.S. citizens, non-citizens, and law enforcement officers themselves, are less safe. It's time for Congress to fix the outdated laws that opened the door to this overreach and to codify the norms which this administration has broken. Congress should limit the use of face masks, require officers to wear clear identification, and ensure that immigration officers cannot question based on race. Congress should also support safer public communities through broader reforms which incorporate proportionate, targeted, and humane consequences for violations of immigration law. Because without these changes, enforcement will continue to escalate and even more citizens will be swept up by an administration that has expressed neither contrition nor concern for the issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to watch a video that compiles a number of your different experiences, and some may find this video disturbing. I found it deeply disturbing, just as I found your accounts as I read them and now have heard them very, very disturbing, even shocking. But I just want to warn folks that some of this is pretty graphic. So we'll now play that video.
Yo, what the? Yo, run it over. That's when they get a whole lawsuit. Why? Whole lawsuit. Yeah. Hit and run. Hit and run. That's a hit and run. Hit and run. Hit and run. That's a hit and run. Hit and run. Hit and run. Look, hey, watch out with that weapon. That weapon. Yo, watch out. What's wrong with you? You hit it. You hit her. Yo. What's wrong? You hit her. You hit her. You guys hit her. You guys hit her. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all bust a whole U-turn in the middle of the street. Y'all hit her. Y'all on camera. Leave her alone. She ain't even do shit. She trying to go to work. She's trying to go to work. Oh, what? Y'all some crazy. Y'all got no heart, for real. No heart. No heart. She's a female. You guys hit her. How you guys gonna arrest her? You guys hit her. Man, how y'all gonna arrest her, man? Y'all bogus as fuck. You hit her. You guys hit her. You guys hit her.
I think probably you recognize yourself in some of those videos, and they speak to, frankly, some of the charges that were brought against you that were just complete lies. That, for example, you assaulted officers or did anything to resist. I'm going to turn now to Representative Garcia for his questions, and we'll go back and forth between us then.
Thank you, Senator, and I want to thank all of our witnesses, and that, of course, and that video, of course, in of itself was very powerful. Thank you all for your testimony. You have all had horrific things done to you and by our own government, which is something that I think is so shocking and outrageous that's happened in this country. And we know that the administration continues to lie over and over again about what they're actually doing. I want to show everyone just this here really quick. I want to read this. This is actually a tweet by the Department of Homeland Security. And it says, "Stop fear-mongering. ICE does not arrest or deport U.S. citizens. If a U.S. citizen is arrested, it is because they have obstructed or assaulted law enforcement. What makes someone a target for immigration enforcement is if they are illegally in the U.S., not their skin color, race, or ethnicity. Secretary Noem has been clear. Rioters will not stop us or slow us down. ICE does not arrest or deport U.S. citizens." I just want to ask briefly each of the 5 U.S. citizens that are here, if you think, based on this, is this tweet a lie? Mr. Retes, is this tweet a lie?
100% it's a lie.
Ms. Figueroa, do you agree? Is this tweet a lie?
That's a damn lie, and they know it.
Mr. Chavarria, is this tweet a truth or a lie?
It's a lie.
Mr. Ramirez, is this tweet true or a lie?
It's a lie.
Ms. Velez? Thank you. Now, every U.S. citizen here agree that this tweet by Homeland Security is a lie. And Secretary Noem should be ashamed. She should resign. She should not be running any agency of the United States of America. Now, Mr. Ruckland-Melnick, DHS does actually racially profile American citizens. Is that correct?
As Gregory Bavino stated, it's, quote, how they look.
And I want to briefly, Mr. Retes, I just want to go back to you. You and I spoke extensively back in Los Angeles. You served our country in Iraq, and you had your rights violated by our own government that you fought for and put your life on the line for in this country. That in of itself is horrific. I want you to remind the American public at any point in your incident, you told agents that you had served in the military. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so while you were sitting in the dirt, while your license plate showed that you were a veteran, you told folks that you had served, you clearly stated that you were a U.S. veteran and served this country. Is that correct?
Yes.
When you were violently arrested by ICE, you asked if you could make